get started. Excited to share the results of this study. So it's a super interesting study. I think you guys are going to like it. It was fascinating to me. So just some basic background of what we try to understand here. And in context to what we're talking about today. So the event is about understanding really buyers and how they want to buy. And I think so many times we get caught in this as sellers, whether we're in marketing or whether we're in sales or somewhere in the go-to-market process, we get caught in an echo chamber where we think we know what people want more than they necessarily, more than they know, and we're wrong. And so the purpose of this study is to understand what people's preferences are. We basically just asked, and let's take a look here. So we asked 400, humor me guys on knowing how to change slides. Got it. Okay, so we talked to over 430 respondents in largely North America to understand what is it that matters to them. So if you look at the things we asked, how many tools, if you look at these bullets here, how many go-to-market tools did they purchase in the last 12 months in 2024? What were their budget for those new tools? Who was involved in the buying process? So what departments? And then the average purchase time, so sell cycles, and then the effect of the U.S. election on budgets going forward. So let's just walk through some of these things. So there's a lot of data, but just to give you context of who we talked to. So you can kind of see very heavy mid-market stuff, but a pretty good bell curve. So from an employee count perspective and both a revenue perspective, it's a pretty nicely distributed study. It's a good study. We have good data here. It had nice statistical significance across the board. So let's get into the first thing. And we're going to go kind of fast right now. If you want more data, and we have the full study, first, and I'll show it, we have an infographic that'll be available live at the end of this session that you can download to get the rest of the data. And then we have a completed study that has much more data here that we'll share with you. So let's dig in. So the key point here is 77.4% of B2B companies bought at least 3 new tools. So they added to their tech stack. In the last 12 months, they added 3 new tools. And many of them, you can see here in the B2B space, almost 25% added 5. So it's interesting. And you can see there's a little call out. I don't want to take too much time, but SMB companies added 60% of SMB companies, but enterprise companies bought more, but the SMB companies spent almost nothing. So let's actually get into the next slide because this is the interesting part. The last slide is interesting, but it's really interesting in context to this. People spent nothing. So they bought lots of new tools. Think about that. In 12 months, they bought, in many cases, 5, 6, 10 new go-to-market tools, yet they spent less than $10,000 to $15,000 overall. And by the way, the 2 slides you're looking at here, the 2 charts you're looking at here, we did a initial study, and we wanted everybody, whether you're in a B2B or a B2C environment, we wanted to know how do you buy? And then we said, this is really interesting. Let's look at just B2B companies. So you're seeing the contrast between those two different demographics. So overall, as you can see, almost everybody spent less than $15,000 in new go-to-market tools in the last 12 months. Like that's nothing. That's so small. And you put that in context to they bought 5 or more tools. Like that means they spent nothing for those tools. So that's absolutely shocking to me. So now let's go to the next thing. The buying committee. So, okay, here's what we know so far. We know people are buying a lot. They're spending almost nothing, which, by the way, to me, that really means they're just testing stuff. Sorry, just one sec, guys. So that means they're spending almost nothing. They're testing things. They're trying things out, but they're not actually making real investments. So Now let's say who's involved in the purchase of these. Basically, what you're looking at is, in many cases, on average, you're seeing at least 4 departments, minimally 3, but at least 4 departments are involved in almost every purchase process. Okay, so now let's think about what I just said. People bought a lot, they spent almost nothing on it, and it was a very complex buying process. Pretty much the whole company gets involved in the buying process. So what that means is people are really trying to avoid risk in their buying process. So just in an umbrella understanding of what just happened, in preparation for today, I spoke with about a half a dozen different CEOs of different technology companies technology and just people who provide go-to-market tech tools. What they've shared is it's been one of the most difficult selling environments they've experienced in their careers. So I've spoke to, in fact, the CEO of ZoomInfo shared with me that this is the hardest selling environment he's had in the last 20 years. So this is, if all of you have felt like this was a rough year, it was. So risk, people have been very risk adverse. They're buying little small purchases. They're trying things out, but they're not making big investments. I'm probably telling everyone here who's listening to this, you probably are like, yep, I just lived through the last 12 months. You're exactly right, Dave. So the study shows it. What you can see here in the study, interestingly, is over 50% of purchases require an executive buy-off, an executive sponsor. And then sales and marketing, and I guess this makes sense. In sales and marketing, as you'd expect, or in go-to-market tools, sales and marketing is pretty much always involved. And then oftentimes they bring in IT. All right, so I'm going to move forward. Okay. This one was very interesting also. And there's lots of data. Like I said, we have a more in-depth study that'll be available, but these are the highlights. Overall buying cycles, meaning how long does it take for people to make a purchase? So when I say overall, this is both B2B and B2C. These are fast cycles. We've done previous studies. This is the fastest we've ever seen people buy. So on average, people are spending less than really 14 days, we'll call it. So, but the more interesting thing is 63.9% of B2B purchases happen in less than 3 weeks. That is staggering to me. If you kind of look at the second chart here, the bell curve really drops off after 22 days. So context, people bought lots, they tried things out, but if it was a very elongated sales cycle, people didn't have the time for it. They were really trying things out, spending very little. And it happened to those purchase processes needed to happen very quickly. Next slide, and this is the key slide. If you're feeling a little depressed, it's okay, because I've got good news here. As I said, it was probably one of the more difficult buying environments we've seen in recent history. That being said, for whatever reason, we're now about a week past the US elections, and what people are now saying, and so in fact, this was so interesting. We did our initial study and we got some preliminary results. So we did an additional study to dig into this data. So this was done. This is hot off the press. In fact, I think we just got the final results yesterday. So as you can imagine, the nerds in the nerdery were just cranking the numbers to be able to understand this stuff like late last night. But what they found was that 63% of B2B buyers are increasing their budgets, have decided to increase their budgets moving forward for 2025. And if you and what that really means, okay, so that's amazing, by the way. Now, surprisingly, 8.4 are decreasing. I don't entirely understand that, but I guess data says what data says. So that's interesting. But if you go to the next slide, it's even more interesting. Oh, that's too far. It's not in another slide. I've got it in the punchline here. That of the people who are increasing their budgets, 78%, or those people are increasing those budgets by 78%. Okay, so I'm going to say it again. Over 60% of people, of companies, are increasing their go-to-market tool budgets. And of those companies, they're increasing that budget by nearly 80%. So they're almost doubling. Now, let me just give you some color here. That's not new tool budget like we talked. They're not doubling that $15,000 we saw earlier in the study. They're doubling their overall go-to-market tool spend. So that feels pretty good. So again, I'm trying to just read some meaning in the data. What I think this means is that people are feeling confident. Again, it's not a commentary on politics. It's there seems to be stability in the just having removed the ambiguity of an election, meaning we don't know who's going to be running the United States from a presidential or from the different elections. Just removing that ambiguity and creating some stability into the future. And again, I'm trying to put meaning to the data. That level of certainty has given confidence where people are 63% of people are going to spend more, and they're going to spend significantly more. So if you're feeling a little beat down from the last year or two, it's kind of a hopeful story. Now, the thing I will tell you is the whole purpose of today is to understand how to take advantage of these changes in markets. So you need the title here is read the room. How many marketers and salespeople don't read the room? They just sell what they want to sell. You have to listen to the buyers. You have to listen to their digital signals. You have to listen and engage in a way they want you to engage. That's what the rest of this day, this summit is about. So super excited to hear from Gartner and David. And we have a whole bunch of speakers that are going to share how to take advantage of this new trend. So if you get nothing out of today except this, it's going to get easier. There's a lot of new buying that's happening. You need to focus on making sure that you remove risk from your buyers. So you need to make it so that it's not a huge purchase. It's something they can try, they can experience value, they can grow, but the budgets are there. So super excited for the rest of the day. If we do have an infographic that you can see right now, you can go to that link, but there's also, it will be in the chat. I don't know, whatever it is. It will be somewhere. I assure you, if you poke around, click around, that link will be somewhere, and you can download this study that gives you quite a bit more detail than even I spoke on today. But feel positive, feel optimistic, watch the rest of the sessions. I think it's going to be a super good day. And then reach out if you guys, if there's any data or any sort of analysis that you think would be helpful. We're always trying to get smarter and better and help create value in the market and in the ecosystem. So please reach out and give us feedback. Thank you all.